Hello and welcome to this little video diary. In this video I would like to talk about the game Darkest of Days, which is not very well known first-person shooter. Personally, I played a demo of it a while ago, but I just recently got a hold of it and decided to play the whole game. Okay, so what is the game about? Well, it's basically the concept of this game that really makes it stand out. So the story is that you are working for a time traveling agency, and you have to travel to different times of war for different reasons. Which means that you get to fight in Pompeii, in the American Civil War, in the First World War, and in the Second World War in the same game, which is quite neat. Now, the game isn't without any problems, far from it, but the game do have its moments, especially in the large battles that this game presents. Now, what the game does right with these large battles is that one, the battles are quite large and open, fields and stuff, not corridors, but also that there are a lot of soldiers there, and there's smoke everywhere, and it feels really cool. And thirdly, it's the time periods. We have seen big, large battles in, the Second World War and so on, but we haven't seen them. At least I haven't in the American Civil War or in the trenches in the First World War. And it's pretty neat to experience those kind of battlefields for the first time. And it's also quite cool that you have to use the different weapons from the different time periods, and it makes the gameplay quite varied when it keeps jumping from time period. And they have also added some features regarding the whole time traveling thingy, stuff like that some characters have to survive, so you can't just kill everyone in the enemy fields. You have to shoot them in the legs or stun them or so on. But you also get to use futuristic weapons in old-time battlefields, which are kind of cool. It's kind of priceless running around in the American Civil War with a machine gun. But sadly, the game isn't without problems. For every good thing it does, it makes one fault. For example, the maps are quite big, but there are a lot of invisible walls, or the battlefields are quite huge with a lot of soldiers. But the game is kind of unoptimized, and the enemy AI is kind of dumb. The story is alright, but the connection from the story to the battles you fight in is kind of slim. And some battles are really large and cool, but some of them are quite scripted. And all of this makes the experience with the game quite uneven. But as I mentioned before, the game really shines at the big battles, the trenches at the First World War, and the shootouts in the American Civil War, and also the first couple of missions when everything is new and exciting. The missions at Pompeii and at the Second World War in the prison camp is kind of cool, but the main focus of the game is the American Civil War and the First World War. And those wars kind of gets old, to be honest, especially the First World War at the Russian-German front. Overall, the missions where you are running alone without any troops to follow you, just shoot a bunch of baddies. The game doesn't shine because the AI, as I mentioned before, isn't all that bright, and you don't notice that when you have hundreds of guys in front of you. But when you are running around on your own, the AI problems becomes very apparent, and also the invisible walls and everything. And also the gunplay is fine, it's okay, but it's nothing more than average. And the actual shooting itself can't carry the game for a long period of time. But the game depends heavily on its concept and on its fresh ideas. And when it tries to do the whole normal generic FPS stuff, then the game becomes extremely forgettable and kind of boring. And sadly, there are a couple of missions like that, especially in the German-Russian First World War campaign. And that is kind of sad because the game's niche and the game doesn't shine when it tries to do that. And that is kind of sad, actually. But then you get to a moment where you get to shoot Romans in the face with future science fiction guns, and yeah, that's pretty neat. And while we are on the subject of science fiction guns, I must mention that there are actually some quite cool ones in the game. It's a nice touch, and it brings variety to the game, which is always good to FPSs. But I had a good time with the game. I certainly do not regret trying this one out. There are problems and there are good parts, but it was a fresh experience, and I do like fresh experiences. But I would like to mention again that I had some frame rate problems, and if the word on the street is correct, then the game is kind of unoptimized. But yeah, I thought the game was quite interesting. If you have the time or will, check it out.